Hello, and welcome to another episode of She Busy. In this podcast, we empower female entrepreneurs to find time and strategies to scale their businesses and enrich their lives. And today, I have an incredibly inspiring guest who embodies the essence of grit and tenacity. Gwen Tinsley is the CEO and founder of Grit and Tenacity Consulting, with over 20 years of experience in sales and the psychology behind it. As a sales strategist and coach, Gwen helps female business owners sell more by building repeatable sales systems that provide clarity, confidence, and increased income. Gwen's approach is all about authentic selling, knowing that people buy you before they buy anything you're selling. Beyond her professional accomplishments, Gwen is a wife, a boy mom, and a lover of Boston Terriers who is passionate about helping women harness their selling power and create confidence in their businesses. So join us as we dive into Gwen's journey, her unique insights on sales, and her practical advice for scaling your business without sacrificing your values. So let's welcome Gwen.
Hi.
Hi, Gwen. Thanks for joining me today. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I am doing so good. Thank you for having me on. It's 4th of July week. I'm at a friend's lake house, taking the time out to be with you. I'm really excited about this today.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking some time away from the lake to spend some time with me because I think we're going to have a great conversation today.
I know we are. I'm excited.
So tell me, so Gwen, let's start off. I did a little introduction on who you are and what you do, but why don't you share your journey into becoming a sales strategist and a coach?
Oh, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And yes, I'd be glad to. I actually started my corporate career straight from undergraduate school. Was a recruiter, had a horrible experience. I found out that it was really more. What is that saying? Profit over people. I had my first sales kind of bad taste experience, very male driven, numbers, numbers, numbers. And I even had my first sales boss, if you will, pull me aside after I was giving it my all, honestly, just pull me aside and said, "Shit or get off the pot." And I was like, "Never again will anybody ever say that to me because I don't know who the heck you think you're talking to, but it sure isn't me, right? Okay, we're not doing that." And I got off that pot and I left, and I didn't have another backup plan or a job, but I wasn't going to let anybody, devalue me or degrade me in the workplace. And especially when it became to putting profit over people because I'm all about people first. Anyway, so I went to get my master's degree thinking, I need to climb this corporate ladder, got to figure out how to do that. Wanted nothing to do with selling because of that horrible, horrible experience that I had. Ended up taking all of these career development assessments and personality assessments, and they all kept pointing to sales. And I was like, absolutely not. That's the gross role, and slimy that has no leadership embedded in that. Like, no, no, no. Well, I found myself in critical sales role, actually in Mary Kay, believe it or not. So I know that some direct sales gets bad raps, but I give all of my training and all of my knowledge and credit to that experience. And I'm still very good friends with the national sales director now, Karen Rydell, who taught me that there is a way to sell without being slimy and schemy, and really just sharing something that you're passionate about. I took that into corporate America when I decided to put down my Mary Kay business, and I helped several startup companies scale and grow their businesses and train their sales team, focusing on really sharing the value and the outcomes of selling and not what's in it for me selling kind of thing. And now I'm here helping female entrepreneurs scale and grow their businesses to feel good about what they're doing. Because let's be honest, selling is a critical part of running any business. If you don't have sales, you don't have a business.
That is so true. And such a big part of it, I feel like you're right. I mean, everyone thinks sales is this slimy thing, but you can't have a business if you're not actually selling something. So, finding a way to do that, I think authentically is super important, especially for female entrepreneurs. So, talk to me about that. You emphasize that people buy you before they buy anything, and that's part of your process. So, tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I find that most female entrepreneurs stumble into business. They either want to have flexibility to be home with their kids, or maybe they just don't jive with the corporate world, similar to my situation. But nonetheless, they have this great idea, or they're really good at something, and so they decide to start their own business. And it goes great with friends and family and word of mouth, but then they don't really know how to scale beyond that, right? And so the skills got them to where they are today, but it's not going to continue to sustain them long term, right? I think that people just think that friends and family are going to continue to refer and everything's going to be great. In reality, though, in order to have a successful business that continues to support you over the years, you have to have a way to attract new clients, but then also be able to talk about what it is that you do on a very human level so that people understand that, as if like you're talking to a sixth grader, in all honesty. So authenticity is super important. I think that when we talk about talking to people that aren't friends and family, it's very natural for female entrepreneurs especially to not really see their own worth, and to kind of go into this shell, or not knowing what to say to somebody or how to say something, whether it's in a email or a DM or on a sales call, right? That really positions themselves as the expert in what they're doing, authentically, right? And so I think that we go into just what we think we want people to hear, right? Or we think that we should say, and honest to goodness, people can sniff BS a million miles away. And that's one of the biggest reasons that people don't work with you, is because they're picking up on that. That's not really who you are.
And I think that's important to note too, because you're right. I mean, at the beginning, family and friends are buying from you or supporting you because they do know you. They know who you are authentically. And so they're drawn to that. But how do you, open that up to other people who don't know you and want to get to know you? And I think you're right. A lot of times for female entrepreneurs, it's really hard to show that you are an authority in something. It almost feels unnatural, even if you are an authority in something, just because of, I think, the way that we've been brought up and how the system is. And so that's always an interesting thing to get past. So, how do you help female entrepreneurs actually get to the authenticity, get past those mental blocks that they deal with?
Yeah, so a big part of my framework, quite honestly, is even though we're working through sales strategies and implementing systems, there's a lot of mindset training and resetting that we have to do. I oftentimes hear so much that, because again, just some of the cultural that things that we live in. And I think that we're fighting a really great fight in America, and you're seeing a lot of females taking more leadership roles and stepping up to the plate. But we as women, I feel like aren't raised, or the culture doesn't show us that like we have a value at the same level as men outside of the home, right? Like we have tons of value taking care of our children and planning all their summer schedules, and packing their lunches, and all the things, right? But then when it comes to like running your own business, we as women don't know how to put a price tag on that, right? In terms of like what we're selling, and what we're charging to sell. And so I find so often that women are underpriced, and they have a real complex of like raising their prices, even because of even some of like the nurturing things that us as women have, right? Like, so for instance, I have a client that I was working with, that after we did one of the exercises that I do with all my clients, which is called a feature advantage benefit analysis, we were like, oh my gosh, what you're doing for your clients is insane. Like the value that you are actually giving them so that they can go and live their best life is incredible. Like you need to be charging 5 times what you're charging. And the mental anguish of getting her to see that, was really astonishing to me, because she kept saying like, well, I'm not solving world peace. Like I'm just a copywriter, I'm just a brand designer, I'm just a photographer, I'm not solving world. So who do I think I am to be able to charge this really high ticketed price point? Well, it's because we don't really see the value that we're providing people through what we have to offer, at the level that we need to really see that.
Yeah, I think that's super important because a lot of it, honestly, even with my clients, when I'm trying to help them find the freedom in their businesses, it's like you really have to work on the mindset. It's like almost we feel either we don't deserve it or our business just can't work that way or whatever it might be. But mindset is such a huge piece. So for me, I think that mindset is so important. And I even work with people on mindset in what I do too, because a lot of times that's the biggest hurdle is just what we tell ourselves in our head, what we've been made to believe, what we think we believe based on the results that we've gotten. We just think things can't be different and they really can. I even know, even with the pricing that you spoke about, I remember when I got into my preschool business, I had all these different things that I wanted to offer that were well above and beyond what any other of the big players in competition were doing. But I still felt like I needed to be the cheaper option. And I kept saying, I'm the more affordable price, I'm the more affordable option, but I'm offering so much more. So over the years, I had to really come to terms with being able to raise my prices without like crying myself to sleep at night like I was
Yeah.
letting people down. And it was just a mindset thing. I mean, I would raise my prices to be able to cover even expenses. And of course, you want to end up making money in business at the KPIs that you're supposed to be at, but it just felt I felt so guilty doing it. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's a common problem that we see.
Well, and it shows up, honestly, like, when you're talking about, what it is that you do. So, a lot of times, a lot of what I do is actually I help people know what to say and when to say it, and so because a lot of times it shows up when someone's like, "Well, tell me what you do," and immediately they go and just start word vomiting, right, on all the things that they
Right.
do, and, at the end of the day, if you're a website designer or builder, right, like, I don't care what goes into SEO and all the backlinking and on-page SEO, like, that just overwhelms me as, like, a consumer. I just wanna know, are you gonna be able to build me a really great website that's gonna
Right.
make me look good and feel good, but because I think that we don't have confidence. And that's a big thing too, is like not just leaning into your authenticity, but giving you confidence, right? To be able to talk about your business in that authoritative space of like you're the expert. Because I think people think that they have to say all these fancy words, right? And like really throw out all the things that they do that goes into generating them the outcome, when in reality, that just makes you look, like that schemy, slimy salesperson that nobody wants to deal with,
Right.
right? And so it's how do you present yourself confidently, but being authentic to yourself? And that really just comes from like, what outcome is this person going to get as a result of working with you and being able to articulate that? And again, I think that so many people don't think past the website, for instance, if like, but what is that website doing? You're not just creating them a website to create them a website. Like, what's the power in the website for
Right.
that person, and how is that going to help their business, or be the positive outcome for them?
Yeah, and I think confidence is such a big thing. I know even for me, I've suffered from so much lack of confidence, especially early in my business. Even though, like, knew that I could offer people what they were looking for, it's just I almost wouldn't let myself believe it. And over the last couple of years, especially as I've been able to grow my business and get to the point where I'm no longer operating my preschool business and now I'm doing the consulting on the side, it's like I've gained so much more confidence because I know I can do it and I have done it and it's showing up in how I present myself, it's showing up in how I sell myself. So how do you help people kind of beat that, cuz sometimes gaining confidence just takes time. It takes results. It takes being able to do it over and over again so that you have the confidence built up. But it would be so helpful if we could get the confidence before we
Right?
actually, have to go down that road. So,
Wouldn't that be awesome if we just were, like, born confident and then
yeah.
we knew that we were just gonna set the world on fire? Like, that would be so amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so first and foremost, I always say consistency trumps talent,
Right.
like, all the time, right? Being consistent. And especially this week in particular, it's something that I've been, like, breathing into my clients, as we have been prepping for the 4th of July week. Sales typically are down, people are not buying, but you can't, there's a balance, right? As an entrepreneur, you are an entrepreneur because you want flexibility, you want freedom in your life. I mean, a lot of people, right? You don't want to be, working this business nonstop. I mean, I'm at a lake house, but I'm taking an hour to, record this podcast,
Right.
because I'm a person of my word, right? And being true to that is really important. So consistency trumps talent, and then also doing the things that we say that we're going to do long after the excitement and the feeling of of being empowered, is
Right.
gone, is really important. The last thing I'll say is fear. Fear is really just false evidence appearing real.
Right.
And so again, some of the strategy and some of the mindset training that happens in my framework is really like digging in and identifying what didn't you like about that? And was that really your false evidence appearing real, or was that reality,
Right.
right? Because every single time we do that, there's evidence that you are confident in your life and that you do have the skills and things have happened in your life that point to that you will be successful in business, right? You will be successful in whatever you're pursuing in that moment. But we choose to believe the false evidence
Right. I
because it's
love
more
that.
comfortable.
The false evidence appearing real. I don't think I've ever heard that before. I love that. But
Weird. Yeah.
fear is, I mean, it plays a huge part in it. And honestly, consistency, yes, it's so important. I feel like being consistent is like a promise you make and keep for yourself. And the more you show up for yourself consistently, the more confidence you're able to build, which I think is so important because as entrepreneurs, there's like 8,000 things that we have to deal with. And so sometimes we're like, okay, well, I'm going to focus on this marketing strategy. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, I don't know if it's working. And so you pivot and you switch over. And that lack of consistency leads to lack of results, lack of confidence, and that can really build up over time to head you in the wrong direction. Even if you are able to get some results, consistency is extremely important. Even with so and I'm big on systems and processes and creating those in my business, and I know you are too. And I think a lot of that has to do with building that consistency and creating that consistency within your business. You're able to do that when you have systems because you know that they're repeatable and people are following them. Or if you're a solopreneur, that you are following these things consistently on your own. It's so important. So, talk to me a little bit about how you
Yeah.
work on sales strategy and systems.
I'm so glad you asked because I was gonna be like, "Yes, we get to talk about that." So, again, so often I think selling is a very emotional thing, right? And I think especially if you don't have systems in place, it can feel very much like, "Oh my god, they just rejected me," right? They just said no to me, and it's personal,
Right.
because our businesses are personal to us, right? And so when you to your point earlier about, like, systems build confidence, really and truly, if you have a sales system, it's like a formula, right?
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I sucked at every other aspect of math, but like algebra, I like aced because I was like, all right, if you tell me that this is what I need to do to get this answer consistently every time, then I'm gonna do that, right?
Yeah.
And so many, it blows my mind how many female entrepreneurs are just doing the latest trend and tactic that they see
Mhm.
on Insta out there or, Facebook or whatever about, growing your business overnight, and it doesn't work, right? I mean,
Right.
here's the here's the thing, like, consistency again is going to be your best friend, but also having a tried and true sales strategy that flows into systems. And so again, part of my framework is like building that out for you. Going back to like your authenticity and your brand, and then going back to like people buy you before they buy anything that you have to sell, right? That's a system, right?
Right.
That it starts with your selling systems or strategies start from the moment that you put content out on your website.
Right.
Right. What do you want people to feel about you? And feelings too, by the way, something that like I was taught to not have in corporate America, didn't have any place in it. People buy off emotions.
Mhm.
Emotions
100%.
drive people to make change, right? And so don't tell me that emotions don't have anything to do in business. Like, let's harness that. Let's embrace that, right? And let's acknowledge that and use that as part of your brand and who you are. Because again, people buy you before they buy anything. And
Right.
so if you aren't being true to that, they're going to be able to pick that out. So again, part of selling starts from the moment that somebody interacts with you on your website. You could argue that's marketing, right? Sales
Right.
and marketing go hand in hand together, but there is a very different um, messaging and wording and things that you say in a sales conversation versus a marketing conversation, right? And so those systems start there. They go all the way through. What does that journey look like when someone says yes to you? Do you send them a gift afterwards? What's the communication like afterwards? Buyer's remorse is the thing. right?
Right.
People have buyer's remorse because they don't feel communicated to, or they don't feel like they have confidence in your ability to service them after you've gotten the yes, right?
Right.
So we work so hard to get the yes. What happens after the yes?
Right.
People, they don't think that through, right? And those are all part of the sales strategies and systems.
I love that. And I love that you brought in the idea of emotions cuz honestly I'm really particular about female entrepreneurship in general and I think that that is one of our biggest advantage points because we are able to create and run businesses and teams and be able to do that with the emotional and empathy component that we're lacking in a lot of businesses and in a lot of places. So I love that we're able to bring that to the table and I love that you mentioned that because that's so extremely important. But tell me, you have an offer that I'm going to put in the show notes so that people can sign up for it. And it's a just tell me what to say on my sales call. And that
Mhm.
is something that you're offering to our listeners. But tell me a
Yep.
little bit, give me a sneak peek as to what advice or scripts are included in the resource.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, so many times I get, like a screenshot of a DM or something. It's like they said this, like what do I say? And again, the I guess the thing that people lean to is just telling them all the things that they, do to help them, right? So part of what getting better at sales calls and what to say to people and DMs and emails is really asking questions. Like, what questions do you need to ask them in return to be able to get a good idea of whether this person is going to be a good fit for you or not? I think we bypass that. Or I don't think, I know most of us just jump right into, oh, someone wants to work with me. And we have this misconception that they actually understand what it is that we do. When in reality, most people might think that they know what they need, but they might need something more or less or something different, right?
Right.
And so it's really taking a step back and being able to ask thoughtful questions that get you to a deeper level and a deeper answer so that you can then service them appropriately or answer their questions as an authoritative expert in your industry. And that's what builds confidence, right? So when people see you as that, then that sales process shortens and that sales cycle shortens and you get more yeses and less nos.
And so tell me, who would your ideal client be? I know that a lot of times
Yeah.
with sales, it could be a entrepreneur who has a brick and mortar. It could be someone in the online space. It could be a solopreneur, someone with a team. Tell me a little bit about who you are specifically working with.
Yeah, so currently, I am working with solopreneurs to entrepreneurs that have a small team that have been in business, a couple years. Service based, by the way, is typically what I do, and they're looking to scale and grow, but they're kind of just stuck and they don't know how. So those are the entrepreneurs, the female entrepreneurs that I'm working with currently.
Okay, I love that because, I also work with similar people that are looking to scale and grow. But for me, one of my big things is team and delegation. I work
Yep.
specifically with people who have teams, whether it be small or big, but people that they can delegate to. So I know you worked in corporate America with helping develop teams, and like sales teams and everything. But tell me kind of
Mhm.
how you work with clients now who have their own mini teams, or even if they
Sure.
have a few people, what do you do with them?
Yeah. So again, we talked about that selling strategy and systems that goes into the entire lifetime journey of your customer, right? I always talk about, there used to be customer service departments and now there are customer success departments, in corporations. And so the reason for that is, customer service is very reactive, right? It's like you have a problem, I'm going to try and handle it, right? Customer success is all about being proactive and ensuring that your clients are going to be successful on the things that you sold them in on, right?
Mhm.
And so that is really surprising and delighting them along the way. That is really taking into consideration, how does this person feel with this communication that I sent out at this time of their journey, right? I think so often, and that's a big part of working with me is I'm as concerned of like how your clients feel the
Mhm.
entire time
Mhm.
working with you as I am about how you feel. Because so many times we don't do the front end work, like with the just tell me what to say on the sales call, and we bring on people that drain us. right? And the whole point of starting, or for me at least, is like I want to work with amazing, uplifting, inspiring women that give me energy and that
Mhm.
then I in turn can give them energy, right? Rather than take my energy, suck the life out of me, and then I end up hating my business and not wanting to do the things consistently because I brought on the wrong people to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so having these systems in place on the front end is really powerful. But then on the back end, when you have teams, I always ask in group settings, I'm like, who's on the sales team? And it's so funny. There's like the one salesperson that raises their hand. And I'm like, no, every single person in this company is on the sales team
That's right.
because anytime that you interact with a client, you are selling them, whether
Mhm.
you realize it or not. Their
Mhm.
interaction with you is either a positive one or it's a bad one. And every time they have a positive reaction or experience with you, you've had an opportunity to continue to sell them into what it is that your company is doing. And so many people that are doing the servicing, whether it's like account managers or, just the project people, right? They just think that they're the behind the scenes and that they're just
Right.
the doers, and they don't realize the impact that they have on that, whether this client leaves you a positive review,
Mhm.
right? Whether this client is going to go and refer others to you, that's all part of the sales strategies and systems.
Right. No, I completely agree. I actually had this come up recently because I was talking to my director of my preschool, and we were talking about something we had done, like a newsletter for internal families. And there was a portion in there I started offering like free music classes for the parents. So I was paying for the music classes, or I'm paying for the music classes, and I'm not upcharging the parents at all. And they had just kind of put in there that, like, oh, music classes now available at Windhaven. And I was like, "Hey, listen, like this is internal and it's going internally to our current customers, but you're still selling. Like we're always selling because consistently they have to make the choice to work with you every single day, and we have to be selling to them all the time. It doesn't just stop right after you've gotten the money in the pocket and then
Right.
now we've moved on to a different part. I even told her, I said, "Look, we're selling to everyone. We're selling to the staff, we're selling to the
Yes.
current parents, we're selling to each other. Like I'm having to sell myself as a boss on a regular basis to my team so that they build that trust in me and they continue to have a good experience." So I feel like people just think of sales, just like you said, that one person raises their hand and thinks that, oh, well, I'm responsible for sales, but that's not true. Every single person in the organization is responsible for sales. And it's super important to make sure that teams understand that as
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll take it one step further too, because I think a lot of people have this like just really ugly definition of sales. And
Mhm.
so they want nothing to do with it. And I'm like, well, you sell yourself to your husband every morning.
Yep.
You know, like you want to go to dinner
Yep.
instead of having to cook. What do you think that conversation is? That is you selling him to
Yep.
take you to dinner instead of you having to go and cook, right?
That's right.
So, I mean, it's a part of our everyday life and we're doing it all the time. I just think that like we have our own preconceived notions from our own experiences, right? That have just, really vilified selling.
Right.
But if you're in a business, the only way to stay in business is to have paying customers, and you
Right.
have to learn the art of selling authentically so that you can have confidence and continue to scale and grow.
Right, and it doesn't have to be gross. I mean, there's nothing wrong if you're bringing someone value, then I
Absolutely.
mean, it's not even a sale at the end of the day. That at the end of the day, you are providing a service, you are providing value for them, and I think that that's mindset-wise something that we have to look at all the time. So
Absolutely.
tell me about, what your most rewarding part of this journey has been.
Oh my gosh. Quite honestly, the most rewarding part has been not even right now, but like previous, the relationships that I built over the last 20 years in corporate and have maintained even after moving beyond those businesses. Um, has led me to where I am today. And again, just being myself and being authentic to who I am. So often I will just tell you that I have been told that I have a big personality. And it has made me feel sometimes like, well, maybe I'm too much, for this, or maybe, and I've been in leadership roles in the corporate world, and I've had other women that do not like me. Because of just my big personality or whatever you want to call it, right? And these other women who I have met over the years and years of my corporate experience that know who I am to the core and understand my heart and know me as a person, tapped on my shoulder and put this opportunity in my lap
Mhm.
to be able to breathe into other big thinking, powerful personality women to scale and grow their business. And I just know that that couldn't be anything other than God.
Right.
And so that is my proudest moment, is just being here. And I'm about to tear up. Being here in this moment with you is a representation of just this journey, and I'm so honored to be on it.
Well, I love that, and I like you, Gwen, so don't worry about the
Well,
haters.
thanks. I like you too.
Well, tell me, so
Maybe we should be friends.
we should. I think we already are.
I was about to say, I think we probably already are.
This is the start of a budding friendship. I'm excited.
That's right.
But tell me this too, because obviously you know that I work with female entrepreneurs to help them find freedom in their lives, especially from the day to day of their businesses,
Mhm.
to be able to, whether it's spend more time with their family, or whether it's grow and scale their business, or whether it's just to sit and stare at a wall and watch movies, or whatever it might be. Freedom looks different to everyone. So tell me, what does freedom look like for you in entrepreneurship?
I'll sum it up in one word: options. In fact, my license plate says options,
Oh, wow.
and it's my husband's like, "Do you have that to just remind me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do actually, so never forget that, okay? Like, don't forget that." No, no, we've been married very happily for 12 years, but anyway, no, options, and the reason for that is I just never I've seen so much happen in corporate America, where in fact, one of the, places that I worked was a career development and transition company. So for those of you that are old enough to remember the 2008, housing crisis, I was literally firsthand watching, bankers and top CEOs and, janitors. I mean, you name it, like the whole spectrum, right? Like walk through these doors because they were laid off and they were blindsided by it, and their families were devastated, and life changing, altering things happened to them because of somebody else's decision, behind a boardroom door, right? Looking at paper and numbers.
Mhm.
And now, like, all of a sudden your life is upside down. And I just knew then that I never wanted to put my life in anybody else's hands other than my own. And so I want to have 100% control of my life, and I always will have options.
I love that. I love that. Options. I'm gonna go tell my husband that too. But really, options is definitely an important part of freedom for me as well. So tell us, Gwen, where can people find you? I'm gonna add the links in the show notes, but just kind of let people know where you are and what's the best way to get in touch with you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yes. So if the next best step, so again, I could talk for days and days, honestly, nonstop on just all the things, sales and strategies and the psychology behind it. So the next best step would be to go to my website and download the just, tell me what to say on my sales call freebie. I know we're recording in July, so I also have another free masterclass happening that you can put your hands on if you're interested in that. And that's all about handling those pesky sales objections with scripts and stuff. But that would be the next best step, is go to my website. So that's Grit and Tenacity Consulting.com. And then, of course, you can also find me on Instagram, and that's the same handle, Grit and Tenacity Consulting.
Perfect. Well, I'll put all that in the show notes, like I said, and hopefully some people will really buy into all this and they will be sold to from this episode, but in a good way. In a good way. So we're working to break the stigma on all that. So it's been
Yes.
wonderful talking to you, Gwen. I appreciate you taking time away from your day at the lake. I will let you continue the rest of your day, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. But until next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.